the arcade, guys. I'm player one, Danielle.
And I'm player two, Chris.
Hello, welcome to the special video game week. Um,
Video game.
yeah, we're gonna get into some spooky video games with everyone. Basically, player two, Chris here is gonna just take this one over.
Can confirm game was spooky.
Spooky AF.
Screamed like a little gal on stream
I
last
clipped it.
week.
I clipped
I
it.
saw that. It got me. It got me. That was good.
It was
Such
so
a
fun
tense
to
game.
watch.
But
Um,
yes, very fun.
Yeah, but we're gonna get into that first. We're gonna get into some game news. So show us up.
All right. Well, I got a couple things in game news. The first one, the Dark Pictures anthology Man of Maiden. That's from, I believe it's the same people as Until Dawn. Yeah,
Really? I haven't
it
heard
looks
of this.
very good. Uh, so that's
Maybe I have.
coming up. Maybe even a March release date if I remember something. But I think it's a little ways down the line.
Okay.
I'll have to double check on the date there. But yeah, definitely check that one out. That's going to be one I keep my eyes on. And then GTFO, that one that's kind of like Left 4 Dead ish. That is going to. They just released all of the full behind scenes stuff. They were just going to do like this like weekly or whatever documentary thing where they released a new episode, and they just kind of said screw it and released them all. So it's like 10 minutes. It's not even that long. It just kind of gives you more of a look at the game and what their plan was with it. And then after that, this is pretty cool. Vampire the Masquerade. They're going to be having a new game. Paradox, actually, I found out a lot of this stuff just over the last week. Paradox bought White Wolf, which owns the RPG like pen and paper universe
Oh.
for. Now I'm gonna forget it. Something
Um.
they. I'm gonna look it up. No, I gotta. Let's see, White
Okay.
Wolf.
What?
Maybe.
Explain it. Maybe I can get it.
So I'm gonna have it in like 2 seconds.
Get it.
World of Darkness.
Oh,
Jesus
okay.
Christ.
That's
Might
fine.
even cut out me being dumb there. I don't know.
Okay.
But World of Darkness and then the Vampire the Masquerade games exist within the World of Darkness in the same like universe. And so this game's going to be coming out. They did this like super weird Twitch stream where they just showed like this essentially that the background for that dating app that we did where it's like a Tinder knockoff, but then they just showed that along with like some
Okay.
super vague, like hints at something. And then towards the end, they show that they're going to have this announcement on March 21st. So they're going to, I think, officially announce the vampire game, which it's been in speculation that they're going to do something with it for a long time. When they bought White Wolf, it said that, Paradox said that would be their obvious kind of go-to game. And it looks like they might be delivering on that. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. I
Um,
didn't know that that was for like a game that you sent me that. I thought it was just like something funny you sent me. So
yeah.
I love that kind of advertising.
Yeah. It was like, I think it was like a 21-hour stream. Like it was a long stream,
Whoa.
and there was just over like nothing for 90% of it. And then yeah, it was kind of like Cyberpunk 2077 did that.
Oh, yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah,
So these
and so
Tender profiles,
yeah,
Tender, Tender beta, we made profiles for Tender. They give you a screen name, which mine was Hyped Witch 67. What was
I was
yours?
a philosophical summoner 93. Accurate.
I didn't know my blood type. I'm 29 and I don't know my blood type, so I I just guessed and put one. But then it tells you, has you go through all these things, and you tell it like what you're into. And mine, I'm not going to read all of these, but it got a lot of it. I was explorer, vintage furniture lover, which how I don't even know how it got that for me. PlayStation fan, Instagram fan, Scrapbooker, not so much. I guess if Instagram's kind of like a virtual scrapbooker.
That's true. I can see that.
But it goes from like that, like playful, like Instagram fan, dog lover, film lover, cat lover, and then you scroll down a little bit, and it's like crime scene lover, serial killer lover, cryptozoologist, avid worshiper, unhealthy. One of them's just unhealthy. Okay, probably. Truth seeker, obsessed with death, necromancer, caster of hexes, making at what? Make it just the sentence starts with making at. The split between cruelty and war to make something more. I sometimes make random things with friends.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, not
Mine had a lot of interest. It called out some like Settlers of Catan and Daft Punk fan, and then of
yeah,
course it said Coffee Addict, which I mean
easy.
I'm wearing a coffee shirt right now. I mean, I don't...
That's
so
good.
yeah, but it's like it seems like there's going to be a lot more of the sort of, I don't know, social interaction, I think, is what they're doing that for. So if you wanted to do it yourself, app.tinderbeta.com, and you can go through and do the whole little it's like, it's the horror version of a dating app.
Yeah, and it's TENDER.
Yep.
So app.tinderbeta. And if you guys do this, you should screenshot your profiles and like put them on our Twitter at the Bloody Arcade and see. I just want to see what you guys have because it's wild.
It's pretty neat, and I gotta say the site itself is just kind of well done.
It is,
and so that's pretty neat. I think they'll be able to do something pretty cool with it from there. So I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot more of this sort of interaction, this sort of like just almost dating sim level stuff in it, because vampires and they get it on. So that's what I'm thinking. But at the very least, the 21st is when they're going to give more info on the game as a whole.
That is too awesome.
And another thing coming up on the 21st is the Sinking City. And that was one I was really excited about. They did actually release a gameplay trailer. I kind of wish they didn't. Yeah, it looks like it has a lot of generic gameplay elements. And furthermore, one of the generic gameplay elements is something from its other game, Sherlock, which is called the Mind Palace, which if you play Sherlock, that's cool. It is a cool thing, but it's also literally been done before. And they even call it out that it's from the Sherlock game. It's so I'm very confused about that decision. And then the rest of the gameplay looked kind of similar to Sherlock in the way that you explore the world and do the missions and that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
It's not by the same people?
It is by the same people.
I think. Yeah. So it's like they just remade the game.
Kinda. Yeah. They just use their assets, which is always fine. I mean, whenever games do that, but then if it feels too much like a game you've already played, then it's no good. And especially with something like the Sinking City, where it had all this Lovecraft stuff that it could have gone with. I don't know. Just seeing that, it makes me skeptical that the level designs and stuff like that are going to be really as intense as some of the initial like promo stuff made it look.
Yeah. We'll see.
You never know though.
We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen stuff like you guys. I think you and me talked on a different episode, or maybe just in life, about like when you see game trailers and they're like, oh, like people crashing through stuff, and then it's like this 2D side scroller game, and you're like, what? Like what? The trailer looked totally different. So maybe this one just throwing everything on the tables, like, hey, like we're throwing everything out there, but just wait, like it's good. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you at least know what you're getting whenever they do the gameplay trailers like that. So, but there's already just a lot of hype around how good it was looking initially, that it was a little bit of a letdown whenever you're like, that's kind of dramatically different than what you were pitching before.
Yeah.
But it could still be really good. I'll still definitely check it out.
Cool.
And then the last item was this one I just happened to come across. It was called Lust from Beyond. I don't know a ton about it, but I saw a couple of screenshots, and it is billed as a mature / erotic horror. One of the very few in that genre.
Yeah,
and it's the graphics look really like recent, look good,
Okay.
and I guess it's just supposed to be a horror game that focuses lot heavy. I can tell you from the screenshots, definitely heavy sexual focus. Lots of nudity and like a guy with two heads getting it on was a chick. Like
Okay.
it's
Okay.
there's something going on there. Keep your eyes out for that.
Keep all four eyes out for
All
that.
four. Yeah, but you never know. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for the game news section. Just a little updates. Gonna keep watching that Man of Maiden and then GTFO definitely whenever that comes out.
Yeah,
We're gonna get our teeth into that one.
that one looks. And like I said with the vampire, I love goofy, like weird, uh, like advertising or like little hints to like games or movies that come out. I love little gimmicks like that. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for that one.
Alrighty, and so next, before we get into the Visage review that I have, kind of keeping with the theme, which we're going to try and do, since Visage is heavily kind of ghost,
Paranormal.
supernatural, yeah, paranormal. You have actually got a spooky story for us.
Yes, I kind of want to put everyone in this spooky paranormal mood before they watch and listen to your review. So, I'm going to tell one of my favorite stories that I've ever heard. It's not an original story from me, but I was watching, actually, shout out to H3H3 Podcast. They have a YouTube podcast that you can go actually watch. The guy who had this happen to him, you can watch his interview, but his name is Jordan Peterson. He's a like world-renowned psychologist. He wrote a bunch of books and stuff. I don't know. That's all I found about him. But he went to Nashville for a conference slash meeting for the psychology and like had students there that he worked with and all that. So he goes to Nashville. He goes to his hotel, which was kind of in the middle of like a bad part of the neighborhood. And he sees that there's a restaurant attached to the hotel. So he's like, I'm going to check that out. So he goes in this restaurant, and it's the middle of the day, and there's no one in the restaurant. No staff, no, like, customers, nothing. And so he's like, hello? Why is there no one in here? That's weird. But there's food on the, like, buffet table. So there's, like, food in there, but who cooked it, like, who's eating it, whatever. So he thought maybe, like, no one goes to this place. It's just there. Whatever. So then he goes over to the hotel, checks in, goes upstairs, drops his luggage off, drops his computer off, leaves, and him and his students and colleagues go get food. So, after he comes back, he goes upstairs, him and his colleagues and his students go and hang out in his room. They all, like, stop by just to have, like, an after dinner, like, hangout session, I guess. And they come into his room, and all of his drawers and like cabinets are open, and he specifically says they're not just kind of open, they're like pulled all the way out to where they're barely hanging on open. And he's like, oh shit, like my stuff is taken, obviously, like I'm robbed. But then he looks
Yeah.
on his bed and his computer's there, and he looks on his floor and his luggage is there. He's like, okay. So he rules that out, and then he shuts all the doors or drawers, and they're like, well, maybe a truck went by and like rattled this old building and like they all fell open. They're like making up these weird scenarios in their heads so he can kind of one off the situation. So then they leave. He goes to bed and he wakes up in the middle of the night and he's like, no, man, like that. Oh, wait, I skipped a part. This is very important. He sees the Bible in the drawer in the middle of the beds, and it's turned to the specific Bible verse, like through the valley of death. I walk through the valley of death, or shadowy of I don't know the Bible that well. Oops. But the shadow of death, valley, death thing. And he's like, well, that's a weird coincidence. I don't like that. And so he, whatever, shuts the Bible, shuts the drawer. And then whenever he turns around to talk about the truck thing, they notice that the drawer opened again. So it was shut and it opened again. He was like, okay, what the fuck is going on? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think most like men or adults who get spooked by ghosty things, they try to rule it out as fast as they can. So like, it was nothing, it's fine, just go. So then in the middle of the night, he wakes up and he's like, okay, no, that wasn't like just okay. Like, that's not okay. That's like, this is fucking weird. And
Yeah,
so he's
can't
like
get over it.
spooked. Yeah, he's like spooked out, and he goes downstairs to the lobby and he's like, hey, like, I don't want to alarm you, but there was someone in my room. And the desk lady says, well, I don't want to alarm you, but this place is haunted. And like, that's what happens. Like, people's drawers open. So he's like, okay, that's a weird, like, that's not comforting. And
Feel like you should have to have a disclaimer, but all right.
yeah, I guess I'll go back. So he gets his colleagues, and he's talking to one of them, and he's like, hey, that drawer opening thing that happened to you, it happened to me too when I was in the shower. Like, all my drawers opened. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm listening to this and I'm like, get out. And so he's like, that's crazy. And so then they're done. They're not going to stay there anymore. So before the conference, the morning he talked to the lobby girl, he went to, they decided to get breakfast at the restaurant beside the place.
Mm-hmm.
So
the deserted restaurant.
Yes, the no one works there restaurant. So surprise, surprise, when they go in, they sit down and there's no one there. And he's like, I just kind of want to like eat here. Like, this is like intriguing. So they sit there for 30 minutes. No one's in there. Not customers, no one at their registers, no one cooking, like no one. And then this waiter walks out and he's like, doesn't even acknowledge them. They have to like flag him down and like, hey, like, hello. And he's like, oh yeah. And he's like, can I have some menus? And the waiter says, we don't have menus. We just cook whatever you want. What? Where are you? And so then he says, okay, I guess we'll just have regular breakfast stuff. So he asks for breakfast. The waiter's like, okay, cool, we can do that for you. Goes back. It's like 45, 50 minutes before he comes back out with the food. Breakfast food. 45, 50 minutes. So he brings it out. And this is my favorite part of the whole story. He brings it out, and the eggs are not cooked. They're just cracked onto the plate. Like, just cracked right on there. That took 50 minutes. And then it's all garnished all pretty and like stuff. And everyone's eggs are like this. No one's eggs are cooked. Not even like, hey, this is cooked a little bit, but we didn't cook it all the way. It's like, these were not cooked at all. So then he's
No
like,
attempt was made at cooking these eggs.
yeah. So then he says to the waiter, hey, these aren't cooked, obviously. And the waiter's like, sorry, I'll get that for you. Another 20, 25 minutes goes by. Comes out, it's cooked. And he's like, the kicker to this whole shebang at this restaurant hotel combo would be if this is like a really expensive meal. And he got the ticket. It was $83. $83 for that meal. Yeah, that's the story. But just that whole
wow,
that whole experience would be insane to me, to experience all that in one go.
So are they feeling like,
I mean,
so do they think the waiter was like a ghost? Is that the story?
I mean, they were kind of hinting at like he didn't really exist, and like, I don't know, maybe he couldn't cook the eggs because he was a ghost. But I don't know, like, I feel like maybe the hotel experience and the restaurant experience were two separate beings, but
okay,
the restaurant experience was just really fucking eerie and weird. Like, to have all that happen in one go is like,
yeah, all
where
the
the fuck
place,
am
really.
I? Yeah. And
Huh.
he said the restaurant was like all green marble and really fancy, and like the hotel was all run down in like 70s. And where were you? What is this place? Does it even exist? Were you in a time warp? It's crazy.
Wow. All right.
Spooky, ooky spooky.
That's a good spooky mood setter, because that's pretty much how it works in Visage. You think you see something and you don't.
Yep.
Whatever you see may not really be there. Is it a wall? Is it not a wall?
I have to keep the lights on. I feel
they
insane.
keep turning off. Yep.
My fucking eggs aren't cooked. I'm insane. But That's my story.
Maybe that's the root of that. We don't even know of Visage yet. Maybe the opening guy is shooting those people because they didn't cook his eggs.
You know,
I mean,
sometimes.
that's not even a spoiler. I think we maybe just accidentally spoiled. We figured out the whole thing. Got to cook your eggs,
You gotta cook your fucking eggs.
or you get the fucking pistol.
You get the bullet. Cool. Okay, so I hope you guys are spooked up because next coming up is Chris's game review, and it is scary.
Visage is a Kickstarter-backed game being developed by Sad Square Studios. It reached its initial funding goals on March 12, 2016, raising $120,129, with pledges from 3,214 backers. This is the first game by Sad Square Studios, and you will see in this review that it shows. I grappled with reviewing this game at all because it is in early access, and I didn't want to leave a negative impression on something that isn't considered finished. However, in the age of games that die in early access, I think Visage deserves some attention, and furthermore, this review will be less about the game and more about the development lifecycle for indie games in general, with Visage being the case study for that. Visage billed itself as the first horror game in which most of the events are randomly activated throughout the game, stating that each playthrough will be greatly different, which, right away, that sounds amazing. Unfortunately, it also sounded amazing every other time that I have heard the same thing from other game studios, but okay. The gameplay per the Kickstarter was slated to have a blend of point and click, search everywhere for everything mechanics, mind-blowing atmosphere with challenging, intricate stories, and even specifically calling out PT as inspiration for this real-life horror simulator. The list of features including console support, VR, and more sound very impressive, and is easy to see why it got enough attention to raise that full 120,000 Canadian dollars. With an early access available, I had a really hard time not seeing at least what they had so far. The early access title currently only has one of its 4 promised chapters available for play, which leaves the house feeling fairly limited. What this means though is that occasionally you will come up to doors and they state that they're not available in early access. The game itself is set in the 80s and you're in a house that, as noted by the Kickstarter, has been around for centuries and yet never rots or decays. Upon starting a new game, you are met with a grim opening cutscene where a man executes people that are tied to chairs and then shoots himself. This right away sets the tone for the game. Who was the man? Who were the people he was shooting? And after the cutscene, you wake up in a all-white room just filled with tile and blood. And you slowly get off the floor and dramatically limp your way to the door. And once you get on the other side of it, you kind of walk like normal, and you notice that now that door is locked. This is actually your first objective of the game. Whenever you realize that door is locked, it tells you you need a key to be able to open it. As you wander through the house, you look for keys and other important items to progress. The inventory management system leaves a bit to be desired, but overall was okay. You have 2 separate inventories, one for consumables and non-essential story items, and the other for anything that is unique to progression. Consumables include things like lighters, camera, pills, candles, and anything along those lines. Visage instills a level of latent fear and anxiety that reminds me of watching a horror film as a child. You feel like you are truly trapped, and I found myself wanting to stop playing, but at the same time I just couldn't quite look away. As you make your way further through the house and begin unlocking doors, your sanity starts to take some hits. The sanity system is my least enjoyed feature of the game. Sanity is indicated by a brain at the bottom left of the screen. And the way that you cure yourself of becoming too insane is by consuming pills that you find littered throughout the house. Your sanity is decreased by sitting in the dark too often or by paranormal events such as the lights going out. Needing to be concerned about sanity was something that just didn't feel like it fit very well with this game. Strategic play essentially means you either need to run through the whole game or manage pills like you're an actual pill popper. I get what they were going for, but I just wasn't a huge fan. Being reliant on a consumable in a game like Visage sort of took me out of the immersion of all the amazing environments and story in the game. Sad Square is able to pull off some extremely high quality environments, gameplay, and storytelling, and the entire first chapter is amazing. For being a studio of 2 guys plus some non full time members, the game quality is extremely impressive. Every room in the house is highly detailed, with nearly every item being inspectable, and the lighting and shadows are all well done. This followed up by one of the best soundtracks and sound effects that I've had in a game. That immersion is masterfully done and matches the environments perfectly. Everything comes together to be worthy of AAA status. Follow that up with some mind-bending rooms and level design, and it's hard to imagine this was spearheaded by 2 people. I'm going to switch from game review to development review here to avoid giving much else away on an unfinished game. The thing that I found most interesting about Visage was its development and interaction with its Kickstarter community. I'm going to go through the timeline of its shared updates, not to bash on it for missing goals or not fulfilling promises, but rather to draw attention to the struggles an indie developer can go through. I treat Visage as a cautionary tale of supporting a Kickstarter video game with any expectations on delivery. Fortunately for Visage, I still believe the devs will follow through and that this game will be released, but time will have to tell. After passing its base funding goal of $35,000, Sad Square was able to drum up a full $120,129 in Canadian money worth of funding by the time its campaign ended on March 12, 2016. This amount of funding meant stretch goals were achieved, which unlocked console support, VR, 3D character models, multiple language support, and a major game size expansion. That is a full-featured packed game for a very small amount of money. The devs can call out the fact that it is a small amount of money in their FAQ, stating they weren't in it for the money. However, as anyone who has really tried anything for the first time can attest, you just don't really know until you do it. One of the first few updates Sad Square posted to Kickstarter was a promise to post a new update on the 13th of every month, something it would have a hard time doing. In fact, of the 24 updates posted after that, only 4 of them were done so on the 13th. Early updates mentioned the addition of collectibles such as a horror memorabilia, sort of like videotapes, movie posters, that kind of thing throughout the game, but I don't know if that ever actually got added, and I'm kind of glad it didn't. I didn't notice anything in my time with early access, so I'm guessing it just didn't make it to the final cut. The following months are more standard updates with a few major rework to the game core mechanics. Nearing the end of 2016, mostly due to some of those big reworks and the realization of just how much work development was, the release date is pushed from January 2017 to Q2 of 2017. In a surprise move for a game that is already being delayed, in December of 2016, Sad Square announced that it would be doing multiple endings, which was originally a stretch goal, and that stretch goal actually wasn't met during the funding stage. This kind of shows what I think is the most amazing part of supporting an indie game developer. The developers want to make an amazing game, even if it means piling on way more than they can handle. But unfortunately, on the flip side, that does potentially mean they may never actually release the game. And they don't really have that pressure of the big game overlords to push out an unfinished product. So that's where we kind of get with this, where we end up waiting a little bit longer than necessary. After the announcement of multiple endings, we get another core mechanic rework the following month. In February, they voiced concerns with VR and the release date again. Eventually, in April, they remove the release date expectation altogether and state that as of right now, it's to be determined for 2017 until further notice. They even start to call themselves out on being new developers as the reason for these delays. May 2017 is the first time that they acknowledge that they haven't been landing these 13th of the month updates, and to be fair, a handful of them have been on the 14th. June is met with another apology for a delayed update. July comes with concerns, stating that the team is getting a bit burned out and starting to feel the pressure. Followed by a delayed update in August, no update in September, and a new trailer release with a status update in October. The October update reveals a list of items still left to be completed, which was pretty much just a list of items that impacted every single aspect of the game. I was really surprised to see them release something that showed how much they had to work on. This list doesn't change for months, and in December they cancel any expectations of release date at all. And finally, after missing 2 months of updates, in March 2018, they advised that they had to scrap an entire chapter, basically because it sucked, and that they would no longer be doing monthly updates. They advised that the next update they did would contain release information. However, after a full 5 months passed, they communicate an update where they explain they still don't have a release date, and that chapter still isn't finished. Another 4 months goes by, and in September, they post an update about an early access version of the game. This is almost the final nail in the coffin for me. If anything makes me feel like this game isn't going to get released, it would be the unexpected early access release after over 9 months of very few updates. The devs attempt to rationalize this by explaining that their mental health has suffered due to the development of this game, which I totally understand, and that it really is just the two of them developing this game, and, well, it's their first freaking game. They do shine some hope, though, and state that they expect to only be in early access for 4 months, but, spoiler alert, 4 months later, they are still in early access. The week before I recorded this review, which would be 5 months after they entered early access, they have posted yet another apology update, stating that they are still working on the console version, and that they feel that Lucy's story is too linear, which I absolutely agree with. Phew, that is a lot, I know, but that gets us caught up on this wild development ride. I found it fascinating to have an inside look at the struggles these indie teams have to go through to create games. While at first glance, Visage may sound like it won't be released, I must admit the most recent follow-up did actually renew some of my faith that they're going to push through and get this thing finished. Again, all of this reciting of the timeline of events was not to say that Sad Square is terrible or has done something wrong. It is purely an excellent example of what can go wrong with indie titles and to maybe help bring some understanding to the process. Game development is hard. It's even harder when it's your first game. But if you do like Sad Square did and be honest with your backers and stay true to your word, the support for your idea won't end. After all the delays, unfulfilled promises, and even with the lingering uncertainty of a release at all, Visage still has amazing support from its community. Even in its current state, it is extremely playable and downright terrifying. As someone who has sworn off the graveyard that is early access, I would still recommend supporting Visage. I can't really justify giving it an honest rating due to its unfinished state, but I'd stab it. I'd give it a good 3 to 4 stabs if I had to. And I know that's only going to get better with time as they actually give us a release. Alrighty.
I'm spooked.
Are you spooked? I feel like it was pretty good. I went a little long on that one, but that's because there was so much. That is a very trimmed down version of all the stuff that there was to the development of that game and to any game. And that was the whole point, is that I was so intrigued when I came in and started reviewing this well before we decided to review it, and I saw the history that game has with Kickstarter and just the it's like the fear of supporting a Kickstarter is kind of the history of this game's development.
True, very true.
Seriously, it's so crazy to see how long it can go on sometimes, and like Star Citizen is also another good example. Not really related to horror, but it's one of those games where it's just like it it did its thing, and then it has not just missed when it said it was going to deliver. It has just obliterated that. And so this game is going to be last month is full years after they said their release date was.
Yeah. And I've
That's
I've been
nuts.
following it since it kicked off on Kickstarter, um, and it had the different tiers you could donate to, and then they
Mm,
have their Discord, and it was kind of, no pun intended, pun intended, but like kind of a ghost land for a while. I'm like, what? You would Google it, and there was just nothing,
yep.
nothing on their Twitter, nothing, and I was like, is this game gonna be? What was that other game that was like that? Allison Road or
Yes. Yeah. Allison Road.
yeah, and so I'm like, no, because I remember seeing the teaser trailer for this one, and it was so scary. And I was like, yes, we're gonna get a PT, like a full
Full
PT.
PT. Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like when you take this long on a game, people critique it very harshly afterwards.
And
So,
I tried to avoid doing that because I know that the thing that I played is not technically the completed game.
mm-hmm,
And if you watch any number, like the thing that is unfortunate about this game is that they have released footage before now. And
mm-hmm,
so you've seen gameplay, you've seen story elements even that maybe just aren't even in the game anymore.
yeah,
And so it's like whatever they've been marketing up to this point, it's like who knows, because they have just changed it so much. I mean, if you look at their development history, the like what they call major, core mechanic reworks happened 3, 4, maybe even 5 times where they completely change how the game even works.
uh,
And they scrap this, like the last chapter that they're working on, they get all the way right to the finish line and they just trash the whole thing. It
oh,
Yeah, it makes it hard, I think, for people that are following along to stay hyped about it. And then people that are like, oh, that game looks good. And then they come to it later and they're like, well, this is not really
this
what
is
they said
not
it
what I
was.
thought it
But
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I was really surprised though. If you look everywhere, I mean, the community that the supporters that they do have are still there. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
probably one in 10 that are complaining, if
Mhm.
that. And that was pretty surprising. But I think that is due to the fact that even though they went dark a lot, they just keep coming back and they keep staying up to date. And it was better once they said we're not going to do it every month. I feel like a lot of tension came up whenever they were saying they were going to do those monthly updates and then they
Mhm.
started missing them.
Yeah.
Uh, that's when things get a little scary. Um, but
Because people are, I don't know, looking for them then. Because
yeah,
before, if you just kind of go silent, people are like, oh, like, or if you go silent and then you do update, people are excited about it. Well, now you're giving them future hope of updates and you're not doing it. So it's a way different feeling.
yeah, whenever you tell someone something is coming and then you don't deliver on that, it's pretty rough, which is pretty much like the release dates. That's even worse than not doing the
Mm-hmm.
update, is having to postpone your release dates. And they did that probably for at least 3 times. So
Upsetting.
yeah, little rough on that, but I think that if like an experienced game developer looked at the scope of what these two people wanted to do, they would have said, yeah, it's gonna. I mean, 3 years, easy. Like, there's no way you're getting that done in a year, and they didn't.
Yep.
and
Yeah.
and it's a little awkward looking at their FAQ they have on the Kickstarter, because it kind of says they're gonna come overcome some of these challenges of no money and only being a small team and that kind of stuff that they don't overcome. Um, because they are challenges, and it's totally reasonable to not expect
Yeah.
them to be able to overcome them. It's just they came out up front and said they were going to, and
Mm-hmm.
so they kind of overpromised a bit, and that
Yep.
that leaves a little sour.
Yeah. Because it's just like I said, getting your hopes up. Which
Yeah,
if you didn't say it, then we wouldn't get our hopes up. So just
yeah,
make the goddamn game. Hush
yeah.
and make the
And
game.
the game itself, it's crazy. It's so good as far
So
as
good.
as playing it. I will say I came across just a couple bugs, but like there was one where I couldn't. I started a new game and I picked up the phone that you pick up in the beginning,
Hmm.
and I couldn't put it down.
Oh, oh,
So that was it. I had to close that one and redo.
oh,
But that was fine. That was right at the very beginning.
yeah.
And then there was one time I couldn't get rid of an empty pill bottle, and that was annoying.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
You're like,
Uh,
please, just let me.
just let it go. But
Yeah,
those were the only issues I came across. Otherwise, it plays amazing, and the graphics
it's
are
gorgeous.
just insane.
Yeah,
They're so good,
yep.
and the sound effects throughout the game,
Hmm. So
it's
scary.
terrifying. Like but you have to hear like
Hmm.
because everything is sound cues in that game. You have to have the sound up, but then if you do, you're pissing your pants.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was, and I really like a lot of the gameplay, like with the candle, trying to keep things lit with your lighter that does run out. Um, with once you get that camera, shit gets scary as fuck.
So scary.
Um,
Oh, it reminds me of Saw every time where he has to see
yeah,
the pig lady with the camera flash, and I'm like, nope, nope, this is triggering to me. Um,
and the thing that killed me though was and they did come out with the update last week, which was crazy, saying acknowledging that Lucy's story feels a bit linear, and it totally does. I played just multiple times, just like starting a new one, just trying to see what different things I could get to happen.
mhm.
It's pretty much the same thing. Like the only differences I noticed was like you would get different items laying around. Like I found a
Mm,
couple times more lighters than before, like super pointless stuff, really. But exactly the same events would happen. I would see her in the same places. Eh, you
yeah,
know, there was no randomness as except for the items. And if
right.
you watch previous videos, there are situations where like the radio that's in the front room isn't there, or you explore different rooms, but those rooms were closed for the early access. So I don't know if that was just because it was early access, or I don't know.
Yeah, you
That's the
will get to
downside
know
to early
really.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, I say the main complaint I have too for the game, not the gameplay, but just in general, really is it like compares itself to PT, and
Yes.
everything is very PT, and I'm so glad that I get to experience like a full PT. However, the first time I saw, the scary girl Lucy
Yeah.
like jump out, no, she is nowhere near as scary as Lisa, and like
Mm.
Lisa is the graphics of her were just so real and detailed and scary and like just scary that I've never seen before in like a horror game. And this one, when she jumped out, I was like, because it's a jump scare. But then once I saw her,
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what? Like everything else in this game is so good, and then she's kind of to me. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping they
And
update her. I know I
I
can't compare
I
to PT totally, but goddamn, Lisa's scary. Like I need
yeah.
Lisa.
And that's I feel like what the hopefully is what the other chapter is that they're working
Mm-hmm.
on, because they've already shown off so much of her that I mean surely she will be the one that you get to play
Right.
in the early access.
Mm.
But I was trying to see if they had actually said who's in that chapter, but they have not.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and with all the focus of actual scary story events happening,
Mm.
it was really weird with Lucy's story, where you're going through and a lot of it doesn't show you any story. You're not really progressing story very quickly. Um, a lot of it's just that wandering feeling. You're wandering around looking for items, looking for the next place to go. Trying to make sense of what you're supposed to do with the camera, and a lot of the gameplay footage that I had seen before that was like there's like you're triggering stuff left and right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ooh scary thing over there. Oh,
Yeah.
this just but instead I feel like a lot of what I went through was a light would go out, and because of the sanity meter, it felt like the light only went out to affect your sanity,
Mm-hmm.
And that whole system of just like, oh, the lights out, so I better. It felt super cheap because it did it
Mm-hmm.
all the time. The light is
Every
flicking
single one.
constantly,
Yeah, every single
and
room.
yeah, every single room, like every minute, it felt like every time I walked by, like, oh, the lights out. That's fucking so scary. Like it was way overused, and the sanity system having to pay that much attention to it was not fun, and it made the game less scary, really, just because then I was like, all right, this is a stupid game. I got to find the thing, and it didn't detract from it enough that I don't want to play it, but at the same time, it was definitely something that took me out of the game.
Yeah, and it's almost like you were doing the things to, the light would go out, so you're doing the things to make your sanity better so you could get to the scary part.
Yeah.
I want the scary parts to happen, so get me through this goddamn light so I can see
Mm-hmm.
the actual scary stuff, but it wasn't really delivering on that. But it's a demo, it's early access. I'm still very pumped for this game. I mean, it's from what we've seen. Can't judge from what we've seen. I know. Well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of doing that, but
Well, I
um,
mean, the full chapter is there, and the ending does. I mean, there's a pretty crazy shit that happens,
yeah,
but it doesn't happen. Uh, it doesn't get super enjoyable for a while, and so that's to me a
slow
downfall a bit.
rolling.
Yeah. So and then what I think will be also nice is that whenever you have all these other chapters, I'm hoping that you'll see a lot more stuff that like interconnects as you go through. So some of those areas where there's not much going on, maybe we'll have references to these other chapters. So it will take the place of kind of that dead air space where instead you're like, oh, that's like, what the fuck is that? But then you'll come back later and you'll be like, oh, that was that thing I saw before, and now it all connects together and makes sense or something.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yep. Um,
Yeah.
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 So I've seen a few streamer friends streaming Visage. So if you guys want to tell us what you think on our Twitter, just at us. I love talking about horror games, horror movies on the Bloody Arcade. So I want to hear what you think.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't played Visage or you haven't seen it, it is one that I still definitely recommend. It's still in early access. That sucks. And it still had that rocky start, but that it doesn't matter now. It's here, and it's the one that I really really think is going to release. It's obviously not going to release anywhere near their expected time,
Mm-hmm.
and especially since it seems like they're still wrapping up on some fairly important things, I wouldn't expect to see it for another couple months minimum. Um, you know, TBA 2019,
Yep.
but
Yep.
I would say it's something that you're going to see get released, so you don't have to worry about that part of it. And if you're just getting into it now, you're probably going to see it get released pretty soon.
Yeah.
Definitely not one to write off. I think it's worth money and worth playing for sure.
And there are a lot of people out there that like atmospheric horror. So, I mean,
Yep.
definitely worth a go. How much was it? Like 19 or 20?
Yeah. I think it's 20.
It's a good price. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
can't beat
gonna
that.
get the early access, and then that's the game price, I think. So
Yeah. You're buying the early access, but that gets you the whole game.
yeah.
Early access just has the one, and they say they're going to release the second chapter as part of early access. So they're only going to have 2 out of the 4 chapters available in early access. Um, so there's that. And if anything, if you want to wait until it's actually released to play all 4, I totally get that. Playing early access game can kind of ruin things, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. That's why I was really surprised that they did it. It wasn't a part of their original plan, but I think that they pushed it so far that they decided to release this other chapter when it probably wasn't ready, just because
Yeah.
it's been 2 years, like past. It's been 3. It's almost been 4, really, but 2 years since they said they were going to release the game, and so I
So
think they
they're
were
like, let's give
feeling,
them something at least.
yeah, we got to do something that says we're doing something.
For sure.
Oh,
Cool. Wait? Do you hear that?
oh no, 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 no,
We're just
nope,
trying to talk
no,
here.
I'm going
Oh
over here.
God.
No.
Nope. Don't follow me.
Oh, why? Why do we keep playing this
Ugh.
game?
For
Oh,
you lucky ass listeners at home, we were
oh,
stuck on two hooks.
oh.
Okay, let's just talk about this game so I can get off this fucking hook.
Okay. Well, first, let's just come out swinging with the big news.
Big news.
DLC 11, Demise
DLC.
of the Faithful. I'm pretty
I
excited.
am so excited.
It looks, I think it's gonna be a priest.
The promo trailer? Oh,
Yeah,
priest, you think?
I'm thinking priest. Sort of ghosty, sort of fog traveling priest. Because it's got
Yeah,
lot of fog involved so far, a lot of smoke, you know, something to do with that.
yeah. I would agree. The promo trailer looks so damn good.
Hype worthy.
Yes. So you think like it's only a little bit of information, but well,
Yeah,
I
we have
mean,
like nothing
like
to go
nothing.
on, but
So
all
so
right.
you're the only thing you guess so far is like a priest kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm feeling the priest vibe. It's just got the, demise of the faithful. That little their Twitter thing talking about not even fucking the faith can save you. Also, I would love it if they didn't shy away from like God's not real or something. I don't know, but that would
Oh,
be. I doubt it because it's probably a priest. So,
right, right.
but yeah, that's what I'm going with. He's going to be some sort of demented priest, and that would be really
That would
cool.
be. Could you imagine the skins?
Oh,
Oh man, and the like tier 3, like bloody
just
priest.
bloody priest. Yeah,
Fudge. Yeah,
dang old dang.
really excited for that. We'll probably have more information. Did they have like a date on that? I don't remember seeing
No, they
anything.
normally do. Oh no, they do. They said the announcement's going to be on Monday at a
Monday.
time and a place.
Cool. So
Um, so let me see. We're gonna do it Monday. It's a thing. Uh, 2 p.m. Eastern. Boom. God, I'm
cool.
good. All right.
So
On their Twitch channel,
if you guys follow them Twitch or Twitter.
Twitch. They're gonna have
Oh,
a live stream Monday, March 4th, 2 p.m. Eastern, for
shit.
exclusive information on the upcoming chapter release.
Cool. So since we do bi-weekly episodes, you guys will probably see more about that before we get back on here on the 14th. But we'll definitely have updates for it. We'll be talking about it and doing all that. But stay on our Twitter page because really all we post is DVD stuff. So
Yeah, we're your one-stop shop for DVD and then some other stuff.
yeah, DVD, horror movies, and some other things. Uh, yeah, so that's really exciting. The next thing is pretty cool. The pizza delivery Dwight. He's
So
gonna be
good.
on every platform now.
And I've seen him. I played some games as Killer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty cool skin to murder.
I'm. It's a pretty cool skin to kill. But that is such a good character to make a pizza delivery, dude. Just
Yeah,
a nervous little like, here's your pizza, ma'am.
and he already had like a pizza shirt
Uh
skin,
huh.
like
Yep.
so it's just like, of course, he's a pizza delivery guy.
Yeah.
That's like fit Dwight, like he's in New York delivering pizzas on bikes.
Yep. Love
Yeah,
that.
pretty cool. And then the next thing, now this is they're saying they're testing matchmaking improvements. Basically, they're just talking about getting into lobbies quicker, that kind of stuff, better experience overall. And my speculation is because there's been a lot of bitching basically on all these forums and Facebook and Twitter and blah blah about so and so was in a lobby with a level 1 killer, or a level 20 killer was in lobbies with 4s and 5s. And I think what they're doing is testing an MMR. Purely
Yep.
speculation, but I think they are saying, okay, well, just because you're level 20, you have 3,000 hours. You're just stomping noobs and it's not fun for them.
And
So
it's not really
you need
getting
to
you
play,
anywhere, you know?
yeah, you need to play against people on your own. You can't just D rank on purpose now. And I think that's amazing.
That is amazing because people also bitch about listen to us like bitching, throwing back our beers, but like people also complain about how you only can play ranked. Like it's only
Yeah.
a rank system. So this is what happens when you only play rank. Like they need to figure out where you are in an MMR system so you can be with the right amount of people. It doesn't matter if you're a level 20 killer and you're playing with level 4s. Your skill level is got to start somewhere. They've got to even it out from somewhere.
Yeah, and if you're a level 20 killer that has 10 hours on record and you don't know what's going on and then you get matched against level 20 survivors that have 2000 hours,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to
It's
keep
not
playing
even. It's not
mostly. You're
even.
you're you're probably going to end after that game. Or if that keeps happening, because that's the thing, is that the people that are these high rank, 20 survivors, they're the toxic ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're deranking on purpose so that they can just humiliate and essentially bully killers. I mean, that's what I've seen it referred to as.
Yeah.
And that's, if you've ever had a bad game as a killer, you know that if you had to do that every time, or if that's the first, if that happened to you whenever you first started playing, you would not continue to play.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it. It
It's
creates
not fun on either
bad
side.
feelings, and I think that's what I'm. Now this is all speculation. We're
Yeah.
totally talking
Yeah.
100% speculation here, but that's what I think is the case because I see it all the time as killer and survivor, where the rank doesn't match with time played, and time played is huge.
Huge. That's
Yeah.
all you can do in that game to learn is
Yep.
play. And if you have a level 20 uh, trapper, but you have, a tier 3 rank like nurse, then what?
Hmm.
You know what?
You
There's
know, you
not,
know how to play the game.
yeah.
You know,
And they're matching you with time played because that's really all they can go off at this point.
time played, matches won, points that you've earned,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff per match, maybe your average BP gain per match, so that even if you're not escaping, if you're getting a shit ton of blood points because you've just been like essentially farming, a new killer,
Mm-hmm.
then that says you're good. You know what you're doing. Like you can't get a lot of blood points without learning how to play the game.
Yep, without playing the
And
game.
so, I mean, there's a ton of factors that can take into it. I hope they are taking those factors into account. And this is probably something I bet we'll see go live. I watched a alpha or pre-alpha video the other day. Someone posted, and it had the exact same rank system as we have now.
Okay.
So it's due for an update.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see something like that come along with the new servers where they do a legitimate rank. These rank numbers that we see, I would not be surprised if they went away. I hope they do. I hope they just figure something else out that's skill based.
Yeah. Yes. All
All
right. What do you
right.
got for these survivor kids, huh?
All right. So the perks of the week. Now that we're doing the survivor and killer perks,
Mm-hmm.
the survivor perk is a pretty big one. I chose this because of the changes that are coming up. It is decisive strike.
The loved, the
And
hated.
the infamous.
Yeah.
So decisive strike is getting a pretty big change, and they are. I'm just gonna read it. I'm gonna read what it does here. Using whatever is at hand, you stab at your aggressor in an ultimate attempt to escape. No change there. After being unhooked or unhooking yourself, decisive strike will become active and usable for 60 seconds. While decisive strike is active when grabbed by the killer, succeed a skill check to automatically escape the killer's grasp and stun the killer for 3 seconds. Succeeding or failing the decisive strike skill check will disable the perk. Successfully stunning the killer will result in you becoming the obsession and only one obsession per match. So, big change. So basically what that means is the previous way it worked, you had a chance to be the obsession. If you are, the first time you're downed and picked up, you have that opportunity to escape. And then if you're not the obsession, it lets it go to 40%, and then you get the opportunity to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Removing that because it was OP. That was the OP part of it.
Yep.
You can have 4 survivors with decisive strike, and that's insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
And so they took it out. So now I think you can actually still have that because potentially, if you're going to get unhooked and you have decisive strike, you got 4 people, but now they have to have been hooked.
Mm-hmm. And they have to
And
wait the 60 seconds.
well,
Oh, I
it's
mean,
only
it's
usable.
only usable for 60 seconds. So it's not just, I don't know, it's not like you just have it
Yeah,
now.
yeah, it's not like an infinite thing. So it's pretty much like it's more a solid anti-camping maneuver
Yeah.
perk, and so I like that feeling. Anything that promotes not camping,
Yep.
it's not in
Yes.
the killer's best interest to camp you because if they do, they know that you could probably get away really quickly.
And no camping from either side.
Yep.
Like any camping in the game is just no progression is made for your other teammates or for
Nobody
yourself as
wins.
the killer. So,
Yep. And then from there, so in like furthermore, what I really like is just the fact that you have to have been hooked.
yes.
Because for a killer, getting those first hooks, I mean, it's huge. And then if you finally get the first person down and then they just decisive strike away, and now you're going to have another 15, 20, 30-second chase, it's brutal and it doesn't make sense. It wasn't balanced. That's why they
Mhm.
changed it.
And it's still
Um,
fair. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like they
absolutely.
changed it to where it's very killer based. And you and I are survivor mains at this point. I mean, you play a lot more killer games by far than I do, but that's fair. Like
Yeah.
it's not taking away from the survivor. It's just kind of giving the survivor still the ability, but
Mhm.
making it more of a skill than like a getaway, I guess.
And I like that there's even further balance where if you successfully stun the killer, you become the obsession. That's a new thing that's not existed in Dead by Daylight,
Mm-hmm.
the obsession changing. And so for both sides, it adds a little bit more strategy
Yeah.
requirement. So now if you're the killer and you have an obsession perk, and so you're chasing your obsession, but then you get somebody else maybe, and now they become the obsession. So you've got to keep your
You got to
focus on
switch your whole game.
who is the obsession.
Uh
And then
huh.
as a survivor, if you have a perk that benefits from you being the obsession, and then somebody else does decisive strike, now they're the obsession. That's a whole thing, and I think
Yeah.
that's pretty neat because there's only ever one obsession.
Yep.
So that whole dynamic is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and then that actually leads me into my killer perk. I wanted to do one that had an obsession, and one that I think is pretty interesting, that will see a potentially interesting benefit
Mm-hmm.
from this change. So this is Rancor. It's the spirit perk, and you become obsessed
Oh.
with one survivor. Each time a generator is completed, the obsession sees your aura. So the survivor sees you, the killer, for 5, 4, or 3 seconds. And then each time a generator is completed, all survivors' locations are revealed to you for 3 seconds.
Okay.
Once all generators are completed, the obsession is exposed. And so that's that one hit down. And the killer can kill the obsession, so mori them. And there's only one obsession per trial, unique to 40. And so what's interesting about that with the new decisive strike thing, let's say you have a team of running decisive strike, now that obsession is changing constantly. And one thing that I have seen as the killer so much, let's say this killer, the survivor has decisive strike and adrenaline, unheard of. Uh, and so now they get the last generator finished, and uh, the person decisive strikes from you. They've got adrenaline, so they run, but now they're exposed because they use
Mm-hmm.
decisive strike on you, and it's right at the end of the game, so it's very likely to happen. And so those things like at the end of the match that benefit from getting a hold of your obsession, Rancor is really the best example of it, where you are going to be able to kill the person that just decisive strike you now. They become a one hit down, even though they escape from you.
So
And
it's
so that's that immediate trade off,
yeah,
the risk reward.
that's really good. Now on the decisive strike change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what if the killer doesn't bring in anything with an obsession? Do they
Right.
automatically have an obsession now? Then, like it
Right.
changes.
So even if the killer doesn't have an obsession based perk, the survivor will still be the obsession.
Okay,
And
so
if anything, what that tells the killer is that that person has used their decisive strike already.
Okay.
and they're not going to be able to escape from you.
Cool. Okay. So good. I was just making sure I understood that.
Yeah.
With the killer perk, that's just with the adrenaline. I love that because you decisive strike, you adrenaline, and that's like I'm away now. Like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I live. But I like the trade off there of like, nope, you're actually exposed now. So good luck.
Yep. Exposed, and now everyone's running for the gates. Or even more so, if it's like if that obsession has just been popping around all game, and then those gates get powered, or if you're someone that really plays into being able to see the killer, that kind of thing, and then you lose that ability, maybe you don't want to use decisive strike now, or you'll think twice about it because you know that they'll be able to see you, or
Yeah.
just all the things that can go into it, and that can change throughout the match. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, the changing throughout the match is something that I didn't even know that I wanted, but um that's really cool to me because you're like, "Oh, great, I'm the obsession." And then halfway through the match you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not the obsession. Like this is totally different now. Like I can play differently apparently."
Yeah, and like in this situation, now if you're not the obsession, the spirit can't see you.
Yep,
Boom.
exactly.
And I was just like, that's such a big change. If you've been
Huge
getting
change.
tunneled or fucked all game, now you're not.
Yep.
Boom.
Boom. Cool.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think
Good
that was
plan.
actually it as far as everything I had for the on the hook.
Cool. Well, I don't see anyone coming for us, so I guess we'll have the entity take us up and back to the insane asylum where we can wrap everything up.
Time for that sweet, sweet release.
That sweet wrap up. All right. We are back in the studio here.
Oh, all stitched up. That's
Yeah.
gonna heal nicely.
Yeah, that won't be easy with the mangled turned on. So all right, so to wrap up this episode, next time we're going to talk about the horror movie Leprechaun. I thought it was going to be a good time for a nice St. Patrick's Day movie. And 2018, I can't remember exactly when, but they came out with a new one, which I'm as surprised as everyone else. They kept
Leprechaun Returns.
Yeah, Leprechaun Returns. So I watched this movie already, but I'm going to revisit it again to just tell you guys about it. So I'll have that in the next one. So be ready for some gold.
Cool. And then next up, we've got the Twitter pick, the Friday Night Flick pick.
Friday Flick pick.
Check out our Twitter to vote on that, and that is what we're going to stream that one on Friday. So not this Friday, but the next coming Friday, to give you guys a full week to vote on everything.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you hear this, we will have the Twitter voting ready to rock. So definitely check that out, and that will be open for a full week. Is that right? How those work?
Yeah, we'll do a full 7 days on that voting, and I swear that we are not sponsored by Vudu. I talk about them in every episode, I feel, but Vudu has movies that are free with ads, so I'll just go through and pick a few horror movies free with ads, and you guys can vote on the Bloody Arcade Twitter page. But with that, we have a special announcement.
Whoop, whoop.
Get your champagne ready. Get your confetti ready. Confetti. We are Twitch affiliates. I don't know why I did the John Cena. But
because your time is up. The time is now.
Time is now. You can see me on Twitch affiliate. But so yeah, we got the invite for Twitch affiliate last week. I have streamed since then, but we had to go through all this tax information. I didn't know it was that big of a thing, but I mean, the tax information matched my excitement because it's a big deal to us.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate everyone that went on there. I mean, that's pretty much solely our friend circles that have gone there and people that are listening here. So huge shout out to everyone that gave us a follow, because that lets us accept subscriptions
Mm-hmm.
and have our little emotes, which is going to be freaking cool.
Yep.
Um,
So,
yeah,
yeah, on that note, with emotes and stuff, we are going to be doing a giveaway affiliate stream to celebrate on Wednesday, the 6th. So, from now until then, we'll be creating our emotes. We're not going to tell you what those emotes are because it will be a surprise.
it'll be
Um,
cool and bloody.
cool, bloody, scary, spooky. But yeah, so we'll have some Steam gift cards to give away. We'll be doing a cool little party stream. So it's just the same as our Twitter at the Bloody Arcade on Twitch. Cool. Go give us a follow so you'll be
And
notified on
if you've
Wednesday.
got the Amazon Prime, even if you're not like a Twitch user, you can actually come and give us a subscription for free with your Amazon Prime account. So definitely do that.
Yeah, Twitch
Um,
Prime is free. We'll have more information on that on our Twitch. We'll have a Twitch Prime command that you can read all about. But I use Twitch Prime. It's amazing. It's one free sub a month. You don't have to use it on the same people. You can take it, switch it. But yeah, try it out. It's free for you, so why not? And also, you get Twitch Prime loot. So
yeah, free
every
games and
I
stuff.
don't remember how often they change it, but I mean, my husband just got an Apex skin, like a whole Apex loot thing. So Apex is hot right now. I got some Fortnite stuff when I played that for half a second. I got some Here's the Storm stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
Twitch Prime is just cool. Like, why not? It's free. You already pay for Prime, so get that
yeah.
shit and bring it to us so you can get our emotes.
Goddamn
You're
emotes.
gonna want to be spooky.
God.
But yeah, that's my most exciting news because I'm just really excited to be affiliate with my best friend.
Oh yeah.
All the feels.
We're it's pretty nice to be able to do that, because it unlocks some other potentials for, I think that's where we can handle the premieres a bit easier
Mm-hmm.
now, right? Yeah, that'll be great for releasing new episodes, because that is something where we had to actually stream the video,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of tomfoolery involved. No longer.
No
We're
longer.
we're gonna be a high quality stream that your ear holes will love.
Your ear holes and your eyeballs.
Yeah, and your eye holes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for playing at the Bloody Arcade today. Stay spooky, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye bye.
Bye.